April 13, 1953, Washington, D.C., 7:42 in the morning. Inside a gray government building 3 blocks from the Capitol, a man in a dark suit signed a single document. No press conference, no congressional approval, no record in any public archive. The program was called MKULTRA. Its stated purpose was simple on paper: find a way to control the human mind. The Cold War was at its peak. American intelligence had convinced itself that the Soviet Union had already cracked the code of human psychology. MKUltra was the CIA's answer, a secret weapon built not from steel or explosives, but from chemistry, electricity, and fear. The man chosen to run it was Sidney Gottlieb, 41 years old, a PhD chemist from New York. He walked with a limp and stuttered slightly when nervous, but inside Langley, nobody underestimated him. He had a budget with no ceiling and a mandate with no boundaries. What he built over the next 20 years was not a weapons program. It was something far darker. At its height, MKUltra ran experiments across 80 institutions, universities, hospitals, prisons, and mental health facilities, most of them inside the United States. The subjects were not enemy combatants. They were not foreign spies. They were American citizens, patients in psychiatric wards who could not refuse, prisoners who were told cooperation would help their release. None of them were told the truth. LSD was Gottlieb's primary instrument, not administered in careful clinical doses, but given in massive quantities, without warning, sometimes slipped into drinks at CIA safe houses where operatives observed the results from behind one-way glass. One of those safe houses was in San Francisco. The operation was called Project Artichoke. Men were brought in, dosed, and watched for hours. Some laughed, some screamed. Some sat completely still and stared at walls for days. Frank Olson was a CIA biochemist who witnessed one of these experiments in 1953. 9 days later, he fell from the window of a New York hotel on the 13th floor. The official record called it suicide. His family called it something else. In 1994, his body was exhumed. Forensic evidence suggested he had been struck on the head before the fall. The case was never prosecuted. The file was never fully opened. By 1973, the walls were closing in. Richard Helms, then CIA director, ordered the bulk of MKUltra files destroyed. Thousands of documents shredded, but Gottlieb made one mistake. A small batch of financial records had been misfiled in a separate archive. When journalist John Marks submitted a Freedom of Information Act request in 1977, those files survived. 20,000 pages. Gottlieb was called to testify. He answered carefully and admitted very little. He retired to a farm in Virginia. He raised goats. He died in 1999. Never charged, never convicted, never stripped of his pension. The documents, however, told a different story. They described a Canadian psychiatrist who attempted to completely wipe the personalities of his patients and rebuild them from nothing. His patients were not criminals. They left unable to recognize their own children. MKUltra was not a theory. It was not a story invented by people who distrust their government. It was a program that existed, that was funded by taxpayer money, and that was deliberately hidden from the public for 2 decades. The question MKUltra leaves behind is not whether governments are capable of this. The documents already answered that. The question is, what was in the files they managed to destroy?